Hey, this is Cavallo from datingadviceguru.com and datingfire.com. You know, one of the most common problems a woman runs into within a relationship is emotionally unavailable men. That's right, there are guys out there who just don't seem to be emotionally available like she is, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And before the video takes off, why don't we do the big three right off the bat? Do your like and subscribe. Hey, if you like this stuff, why not? And of course, make sure you turn on notifications so you know when next videos come out. And of course, down in the comment section below, if there's a video you want me to cover or a topic you want me to cover, leave that info down there. And hey, make sure you stick around to the very end of the video. I've got a super important tip you do not want to miss. Emotionally unavailable men. Well, before we get started on the hot topic of unavailable guys, I do have to point out something shocking that you might not know. Women are more emotionally open than men. Sure, that much we know, but women are also just as afraid of commitment on many levels as men are. Let me explain. Guys are naturally hardwired to contain and hide emotions. A boy's life is much more difficult if he's overly expressive and emotionally sensitive. Now, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, it just simply is. Boys are almost always rewarded by their peers for being more emotionally unavailable. But really, think about it yourself. How happy are you in a relationship with a guy who doesn't at least have, well, a solid base of calmness and emotional control to him? Does that make you feel safe? If you're honest, you'll admit that the men who are too emotional are very unattractive. All right, well, relationships with emotionally unavailable guys. Let's give you 7 signs that he's broken, maybe. And as we discuss this, also keep in mind that women can be emotionally unavailable in this exact same ways and many of the same ways that men are. For example, most women do not have a good relationship to their own anger. This is something you may have experienced yourself. So while men are often viewed as being unavailable more often, it's something that happens with women as well. Is there a scientific reason for him being unavailable? Well, yeah, actually there is a scientific reason for this, and it goes back to evolutionary psychology. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, if a man was going to survive out there in the hostile environment of fighting off predators, avoiding starvation, and ensuring the survival of his children, he couldn't go mammoth hunting and then cry on Groknek's shoulder. He had to deal with his feelings and manage them, which usually means stuffing them down deep and out of sight, and pay attention to the present moment challenges of survival. He had to ignore his feelings for his family to focus on the immediate needs of his tribe, and he really didn't have a lot of time to dwell on his feelings. Every day was a fight to survive in harsh conditions. His relationships were pretty much from necessity. Now, also keep in mind that being an emotionally unavailable man is not always the same thing as being a commitment-phobe, okay? There are a lot of pop psychology sites out there that have misled us as to what's really happening when a man is avoiding commitment for whatever reason. A commitment-phobe is a guy who doesn't want a long-term relationship that feels constricting. Emotionally unavailable men can, and sometimes will, they'll jump right into long-term relationships, but he will not be capable of expressing a lot of emotions within that relationship. Unavailable men can often spend years in a relationship this way simply because the woman he was with has, well, some commitment issues, or she was insecure and she held on to the relationship even if she wasn't being fulfilled emotionally. So what are some of the signs of being an unavailable man in a relationship? Well, sign number 1 is he's a me monkey. Emotionally unavailable guys are often very compensating. Well, they compensate for a shallow sense of self. He has probably never had his emotional tank filled up, so he becomes very selfish in his lifestyle. This is the first sign of emotional unavailable men, and it's also a big indication of his inability to really feel whole in himself. He's not a whole, healthy person. If he's focused on pleasing himself, that's a good sign he's feeling empty, and he's only working on his self-image. And that won't leave a lot of room for him to meet your emotional needs. Sign number 2 is he's ducking things. Avoiding responsibility for things in the relationship, especially where we make errors of judgment with our partner, is a top sign of an unavailable man. Guys who are not cut out for emotional intimacy will try to get by on the least amount of effort and investment in the relationship. Deep down inside, he knows he's on the hook for a whole lot more than just showing up for sex every Friday night. He's going to try to duck out on a lot of his responsibilities, and he'll be evasive. He'll make excuses along the way. He just won't seem quite there and able to meet your needs. Now, I coach women over the age of 35 about this stuff, and it always surprises me how many women think they can change their guy. Please hear me. Please hear me when I tell you, you can't. Another way he's going to be deflecting his responsibilities is by actively using emotional tactics on you. He will use anger and criticism to keep you pushed back on the defense, thus keeping him in a space where he doesn't have to deal with the reality of his avoidance. Sign number 3, he's not close with the fam. Most people who are unavailable also have very strained relationships with their family. And this totally makes sense because it was probably that family that caused this situation back in his childhood that left him emotionally unavailable. You'll see that he's probably not all that close with them because they have a way of bringing up a lot of negative emotional loops. Sometimes he stays away from his family because he's finally managed to conquer some of the stuff they did to him in the past. Sign number 4, he'll take the physical intimacy but hold the emotions. People with emotional intimacy issues will always try to keep that part as far away as possible. Most often they'll simulate emotional intimacy with physical intimacy. So you'll find that the sex is the way that this guy avoids the emotions of the relationship. You may even find that he's a passionate lover, but you can never quite taste that passion anywhere else in the relationship. Sign number 5, he's a short-term intimacy guy. Guys with intimacy issues tend to avoid the relationship part of relationships. He's very likely to be much more seductive. Deep down inside, a seducer is focused only on the sexual side of the relationship because they know they're not enough on the inside. Once the relationship has progressed beyond sex, it's very likely that he will start something to sabotage it or end it. A lot of unavailable men have some deep childhood attachment issues that they need to resolve. This could mean years of therapy or some other forms of healing. Sign number 6, no real emotional range. He's Mr. Flatline. See, guys are generally not going to appear as emotionally expressive as women. All guys are going to be like this. Unless, of course, he's watching a big game on ESPN, right? And yet, you should definitely be concerned if your man seems to stick to a very limited range of emotional expression. You know, watch dramatic shows with him. Does he react at all to the characters? Does he get invested or emotional over the characters? Ask him what his favorite movies are and his books are, and then why. Is there a thread of emotional attachment there? Sometimes guys will even act these things out or use movies and stories as ways of experiencing those emotions. Sign number 7? Who, me? Emotionally shut down? Pfft, nah. Yeah, there's a lot of denial when it comes to this kind of a partner in a relationship. Emotional unavailable men are usually not prepared to face their shortcomings in intimate relationships, so he will deny any problem or he'll basically avoid discussing it with you. And it can make for some really painful arguments as you try to get closer and he does everything possible to push you away from this particularly sensitive area. Now, if you read my other articles on narcissistic guys, and actually there's one that's coming out very soon, that'll be one of the next videos coming out, you'll know that the list of signs of an emotionally unavailable man bears a lot of resemblance to the narcissist. One of the traits of a narcissist is that he or she is likely to have a lot of emotional disconnects in their personality. Emotions of other people are even more difficult for them to process. However, just because he's got these signs of being unavailable, that doesn't mean he's a narcissist, which is a common mistake that a lot of women make. But he also might be totally fine. If you have an emotionally vibrant life of your own, you might find that most guys feel a little bit flat when you compare them to your experience. Many women even find that they really appreciate a well-grounded man emotionally as he lends her some stability. Now, before we finish up, I've got one really important thing to tell you here, and that is the big mistake in relationships, which is wanting him to be your girlfriend and your boyfriend. You see, there's a lot of love quotes and sayings out there that your soulmate should be your best friend too. And this is true, mostly. You see, you should have this kind of share everything relationship with your man. It's important. However, you should not expect guys to want to hear every little detail that you talk about with your girlfriends. Men are easily flooded when it comes to emotions, and they're easily overwhelmed with details, which what this means is that he's not capable of handling a lot of intense emotional conversation at one time. This is for all guys, by the way. You have to respect that a guy will simply not be able to hash through a complete recounting of how Amy said this, and then you said that, and then she looked away, and when she said it, and then, so does that mean? Guys do not enjoy or willingly participate in this kind of conversation, so keep that in mind. By pushing a guy to talk too much about all these little details of your social interactions, you're making a big withdrawal from the relationship goodwill account. And before you go, make sure you go check out the article on this because I included a lot more detail, including a checklist that might indicate that you might be emotionally unavailable. I know, scandalous, but you should check it out. It's important to know whether or not this could be the case for you. You can check it out at the site at datingadviceguru.com. Because ultimately, the key to avoiding an unavailable guy lies in how well you're able to connect with him. And you got to know yourself as well. When you can create a real connection with a guy, you can even manage to pull in an unavailable man into opening up and expressing his feelings. It can be done. You can be part of the healing process for him. Some men just need the right woman who knows how to connect with him. Sometimes that's what he's waiting to see to open up to you. Now, if you want to learn more about how to connect with guys on a deep and meaningful level, I got a great place for you to go. That's right, go on over to the site. You can either ask me your relationship question or just get a whole ton of good free stuff. Go on over to this link you see below me. That's right, that's datingfire.com/free, datingfire.com/free. Go get the free video, go get the free ebook that I send you, as well as my weekly newsletter. I'll send you that and a whole lot more good groovy stuff. Hey, this is Carlos Cavallo from datingadviceguru.com. Before you run away, don't run away yet. That's right, do the big three. If you like this video, and why wouldn't you, make sure you like and subscribe so you can keep getting them. Turn on notifications so you'll know when next week's comes out. And of course, leave me in the questions and comments below. Just leave me your questions and comments. Tell me what kind of a video you'd like me to make next time. Hey, it's been great talking to you, and as always, live and love with passion.